I'm now realizing that I was muted that entire time. Thank you, Ugo, for calling me out on that. Long story short, Old Man Bowl, good job by both teams. Now we're going on to the Rams. Thank you for that. That was a bit of a travesty. Okay, Rams Jaguars in London, international game, much better than the last international game. The last international game was the Broncos versus the Jets, and that was a travesty of a foreign matchup. That was not a good representation of American football, but this one was. Matt Stafford played out of his mind. 5 passing touchdowns. He is the best quarterback performance as a passer in the history of international games. He passed for 5 touchdowns on Sunday. The only quarterback that had passed for more up till that point was Jimmy Garoppolo, who's his backup in LA, and that game was in Mexico City against the Arizona Cardinals. And that game wasn't nearly as international, quote. Obviously, Mexico City is an international city, but it was much closer to San Francisco than going across the pond over to London. So, great what you saw from the Rams. The Rams should be an undefeated football team right now. They have 2 losses that one came in an overtime loss to the Niners because of a freak fumble by Kyron Williams, who is very out of character for him. And then and then the other loss they had was a freak blocked field goal by the Philadelphia Eagles. So this team is looking like they're the runaway favorites for the NFC West. The NFC West looks like they're going to put out 3 playoff teams just based off the performances we've been seeing in recent weeks. The Jaguars really looked rough. The Jaguars looked like they were going to be a team that was going to take that step. But they've been on the downward slope. After that win against the Chiefs, they really have not been playing at the level that they were. It's really quite odd. And so if you're the Jaguars, I wouldn't say panic, but it's definitely a spot where you're like, I'm not too comfortable with this situation right now. Because the Jaguars are coming off of 2 tough teams. The Seahawks and the Rams both looking like top teams in the NFC right now. Both of those teams were able to manhandle the Jags. And the one touchdown they did get was a garbage time touchdown to Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, first touchdown in the NFL. Congratulations to the Heisman winner from last year. You did get your first touchdown, but it did come very late in the game when the Rams had kind of already sealed and affirmed that they had won that game. Next is Eagles-Vikings. Now, Eagles-Vikings game, this was a close game. Once again, the Eagles are making games closer than they need to. But also what we saw was Jalen Hurts' best passing performance of this season outside of that. Even after the start, Jalen Hurts was able to sling the ball around. A.J. Brown had a touchdown. Devonta Smith had a touchdown. He was finally using his arm in a way that we have not yet seen him use it this season. And he is a competent passer. And I think he just affirmed that and really showed that in this game on Sunday against the Vikings. The Vikings, you wanted to see a little bit more, but Cooper DeJean was locking down Justin Jefferson. Some impeccable defense by Cooper DeJean was able to hold Jefferson. He had a touchdown essentially set up, and it ended up becoming a drop. It got credited as a drop, even though it was just perfect defense by DeJean. Perfect smack with the second hand. Great effort. But the Vikings are one of those teams where they seem like they're a team that can win games. They seem like a team that's going to be there and going to be like, yes, we're going to win some games. But they've been struggling and they've been losing in these tight games to really tough opponents. And so if you're the Vikings, especially in such a stacked NFC North, I wouldn't rush McCarthy back. I would take his time because, again, he's still a young player. Let him develop some more. I don't think that it's necessarily the right move even though Wentz has been struggling a little bit, thrusting J.J. McCarthy if he's not fully 100%. And so I would say if you're the Vikings, you're going to want to wait, let J.J. McCarthy get fully 100% healthy, and then put him back into that role. And the Eagles would not have been the right team to put him in because Wentz did not look very good. He threw a pick 6. It's not ever a good game when you throw a pick 6. So, moving on to the next game, the Patriots-Titans. Mike Vrabel's return to Nissan Field. I believe it's still Nissan Field. Out in Nashville, Tennessee. He came in there and showed that they made the wrong decision when they let him go and picked up Brian Callahan, who they recently fired within the last 2 weeks. So Mike Vrabel went in there with Drake May, and Drake May is cementing himself as a top 10 quarterback. He is pushing the envelope on being a top 5 quarterback this season. He is playing at a level that I don't think I've seen out of a second-year quarterback. He's honestly playing the best out of the second-year quarterbacks in this season. Caleb Williams has had a good season. Bo Nix has had a good season. Jaden Daniels we haven't seen much of because of his injuries. But Drake May is showing, oh, you guys don't know who I am, but you're about to. And Drake May is continuing to show that. The Patriots have put a good team around him. And Vrabel is coaching up this defense to a very good level. Defensive coaches are coming back in the NFL. Obviously, that you're still going to have those offensive minds. But we are seeing some very strong defensive coaches right now. The Titans, I really hope that the Titans office can turn it around for Cam Ward. Cam Ward is such a talented player. And right now, it's one of those situations where what you really want to see is a little bit more success. You want to see a little bit more. There were some interceptions that weren't necessarily the best interceptions, but he just doesn't have a team around him. You can't really grade when you don't have a team around him. A lot of people saw Drake May and saw flashes and were like, oh, he can be good. And once he got a competent coach, a competent team around him, we're seeing what happens. I could see something similar happen with Cam Ward. On to the Panthers-Jets game. This game was a travesty. The Jets finally benched Justin Fields, and Justin Fields, one of the best responses I've ever seen from a player after a benching, especially one that was starting for the first 7 games of the season. He approached it with a lot of humility and a lot of, I haven't been playing good enough. And I love that he took responsibility, but even then, he has not been playing at a level that makes me think that he's the issue in New York. And so, for me, I look at it and I'm like, is this a guy that gets traded at the deadline? You have Tyrod Taylor. Is he a guy that becomes a deal, especially if Murray, the Cardinals, I would not be surprised if they try to target someone at the deadline if Murray continues to stay injured. If Murray doesn't come back and Murray's out for the season, he hasn't been announced to be out for the season, but if Murray doesn't come back and succeed, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals try to trade someone for someone at the deadline to try to give them that spark. But Panthers looked all right. Rico Dowdle didn't look terrible. It was a decent chance. My mom is asking if they'll trade Murray. He won't get traded during the season. He will more than likely get traded during the offseason, but if they choose to go with someone else. But I don't think Murray's going to be dealt at the deadline. If it is, it's going to be more so draft capital to try to get someone to maybe give the Cardinals a spark. The Cardinals are a team that I'll talk about later, but we're going to move on to the Dolphins-Browns. Dolphins lost to the Browns in a very embarrassing fashion. This Browns defense, once again, a very high-level team, a very high-level defense as we get into the second quarter. Clock resumes for the second quarter. Browns have one of the top 5 defenses, and we saw Tua get benched. Quinn Ewers came in. No, Quinn Ewers was a 7th-round draft pick, and this first-round quarterback that you guys have as the Dolphins, you changed. Mike McDaniels is on the hot seat right now, and he knows that he needs to do something if he wants a chance at succeeding. And the Browns looked all right. Dylan Gabriel didn't look stellar, but he didn't look bad. He had threw a couple of interceptions, but they weren't terrible. Tua threw some really bad interceptions. That's part of the reason why he got benched. What I want to see is if McDaniels does end up getting fired as a head coach, he's going to end up as an offensive coordinator. He's too brilliant of an offensive mind to be just out of the league. He will probably be picked up by a different team as an OC. But the Browns are continuing to win games that you don't expect, but they feel like a very 8-9 kind of team. They don't feel like a team that's going to really move the needle. Their offense is just struggling too much. Quinshad Judkins was the shining star of this game this week, and that's really good. If you're a rookie running back as the Browns, you're like, oh, we do have some sparks. We have some young guys. Harold Finn and Quinshad Judkins have looked good. Dylan Gabriel it's hard to judge because that O-line has struggled so much. So if I'm the Browns front office, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, probably going to finish middle of the road. We'll see what happens. If I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm in panic mode right now. Tua's really struggling. McDaniels is struggling to kind of have control of the team. So we'll see how this goes, but I'd watch out for a slide from the Dolphins if they can't figure it out. Bears-Saints. Bears are continuing to look like a very competent football team playing against the Saints. Saints, really, this was the first game where Spencer Rattler has looked bad as the starters for the Saints. He gave up quite a few interceptions. And so by that margin, I think the Saints, again, are going to continue to lose games that you're expecting. They're not a very good football team. And the Bears are continuing to be on the up and up. This is a very competitive NFC North. It'll be very interesting to see as we get further into the season how these teams sustain themselves. The biggest thing that always ends up playing a factor late in the season is going to be injury and health of players. And if I'm the Bears and I'm looking at this conference, and if you can just hang in the conference just till the end of the season, if injuries or slides or things like that happen, I think you could see the Bears eke out a playoff spot either through the wild card or even a sneaky win in the division. I don't think that happens. I think the Lions and Packers are too good of teams to give that up, but I would keep your eye out on the Bears. The Bears have been playing at a very high level, and Ben Johnson has really, truly shown that he can be a head coach. Raiders-Chiefs. The Chiefs molly-whopped the Raiders in this week. The Raiders have looked terrible. Geno Smith is not a very good quarterback. He looked great when he was at Seattle with the right people around him. Since he's been at the Raiders, he's been one of the most intercepted quarterbacks in the NFL. It's really hard to look at when you're like, oh yeah, sixth overall pick, Ashton Genty. We have our guy. Your guy can't succeed if he doesn't have the people around him. And that's what you're doing. You said, yes, franchise marquee player, Ashton Genty. And then you have no O-line help, you have not a good quarterback, and you're not even targeting Brock Bowers, who was your shining star last year. There are even rumors that the Cowboys called up the Raiders and were like, hey, what can we get for Max Crosby? What you need for us to give you, for you to give us Max Crosby? The Raiders aren't going to give up Max Crosby, but it is something to note that teams are calling about Max Crosby. They think the Raiders are willing to sell. Chiefs, Mahomes looks like an MVP candidate again. He has stepped back into his level and is playing at the level that we used to know and love. For some, love, for others, hate from Patrick Mahomes. This team is stepping it up and is looking like they're going to make a very good late season push, especially once they regain Rashee Rice. Colts, Chargers. The Colts have cemented themselves as the best team in the NFL right now. They are number one in the power rankings, in my opinion. They have shown no signs of stopping or slowing down. Their one loss comes to the LA Rams, who look like one of the best teams in the NFL. The Colts are playing at a very high level. Daniel Jones is playing at a high level, and they played against a team that's a good football team. It's not like they played a bad football team. They played the LA Chargers, who have been a successful football team this season. And so from that perspective, I think the Colts are continuing to look like a high-powered offense. You have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, who's looking like one of the top 3 Offensive Player of the Year candidates. And Daniel Jones is, I wouldn't say playing at an MVP level, but he is playing at such a high level that I could see him getting he's going to be at least a Pro Bowler, if not get a second-team All-Pro. The Chargers, they just played the best team in the NFL. I don't think there's much to say about that. The defense from the Colts has played exceptionally well, and I don't think that the Chargers are really hurting themselves that much. This was a hard matchup. I think they'll be able to bounce back next week. The New York Giants. This game was insane. The Broncos scored 33 unanswered, well, not unanswered, but they scored 33 points in the fourth quarter. That is the second most fourth quarter points out of any team in the National Football League. The only other team that has scored more points in one quarter in the fourth quarter was the Detroit Lions back in 2007. But the Giants, it's hard. You come in, you're like, oh, we got a 19-point lead, 19-0. We're cool. We're chilling. And then Bo Nix and the Broncos said, yeah, we back. It came out of nowhere, but it's really cool to see when teams mount these amazing comebacks. It's some of the most fun football to watch. And the Giants, again, I say, they're a very mediocre team right now. They need a couple more pieces, but Jackson Dart's been playing at a high level. He's truly a good spark. Sean Payton got in some beef with Russell Wilson due to some comments that were made during his press conference. But regardless, very successful game by the Broncos that we saw. Now we're moving on to the Cardinals-Packers. Packers handle the Cardinals in Arizona. The Cardinals lose this game, close game. Jacoby Brissett played all right, but Micah Parsons got solo team. They didn't double team him. That's the reason why Micah Parsons has been so quiet. People are like, why isn't Micah Parsons playing as well as he is? Well, it's because every team is double teaming him. And you want to know what happens when you don't double team Micah Parsons? He gets 3 solo sacks. That's what happens when you don't double team Micah Parsons. The Cardinals right now are the best 2-win team in the NFL. They have lost their past 5 games by a combined 15 points. They have lost every game in the past 5 games by 1 score. 3 or 4 points. I believe the biggest margin might have been 5 points. It is insane what is happening with the Cardinals, and you question what is going on, and it's because they haven't had strong quarterback play. These are where the quarterback makes the difference. These close games. We've had Jacoby Brissett playing in the past 2 games. And he has not been able to close it out in the fourth quarter. And then you look at it when Kyler was in, he wasn't succeeding either. So understand that this Cardinals team cannot play a full game. And that's just the sad truth. The Packers squeak it out. They really should have handled the Cardinals, but the Cardinals continue to look like a competent team that can't get it done. That's what they look like right now. Commanders, Cowboys. The Cowboys were able to manhandle the Commanders. Marcus Mariota threw a pick 6 after Jaden Daniels went down. Deron Bland, we were very familiar with him a couple years ago with pick 6s as he holds the NFL record for most pick 6s in a season. He got another this past Sunday. The Cowboys continue to look like one of the most high-powered offenses, and I think this probably would have been more of a shootout if not for the injury from Jaden Daniels. Niners, Falcons. Mad props to Robert Saleh for the way that he's been coaching this 49ers defense. This 49ers defense has had so many injuries, and it is a credit to the coaching for the success of the 49ers. They were able to hold the Falcons team that put up, I believe, let me double check this number, 24 points on the Buffalo Bills. The 49ers held them to 10. And the 49ers looked good. Mac Jones is continuing to play competent football. That also makes me think that he could be another trade piece, someone that could get dealt at the deadline if Brock Purdy gets healthy before the hand. Buccaneers versus the Lions. The Buccaneers, you'd expect more. It was a very rough game for the Buccaneers. Buccaneers lost Mike Evans for the season due to a broken collarbone, and the Lions continue to look like a top team in the NFL. Baker didn't play at an MVP level. He was missing passes. It looked out of character for Baker, and I think that that's a really tough thing to look at if you're a Buccaneers fan. But the Lions, if you're a Lions fan, you're excited. You're excited that there's a very high likelihood that they could win this division and the NFC North. And now as the quarter runs down and we're going to make our way into halftime, I'm still going to finish this out. We still got one more game to talk about. We're just going to put a couple minutes on the clock, and then from there, we'll move on to looking forward to next week. Just 2 minutes on the clock is all I need to break down this Texans-Seahawks game. Seahawks looking like a top team in the NFL. I will say it right now. They're probably top 10 in the power rankings, if not a little bit higher. They have been able to handle tough teams when it matters. Jackson Smith-Njigba right now is probably top 3 also in Offensive Player of the Year, along with Jonathan Taylor and Puka Nacua. Right now, 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL are in the NFC West. Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba competing for that top spot in the NFC West. And right now, it obviously still goes to Puka, but Njigba has stayed healthy. And so from that perspective, you look at it and you're like, great. Also, this is just a small little tangent. The NFL fined Jackson Smith-Njigba for his celebration of dunking the football on the upright. They made this decision after Jimmy Graham had an stellar season and broke a field goal. And they fined him, and then they proceeded to use a photo of him dunking the football on the field goal as their thumbnail for the highlights of the game. Just an interesting observation. Also, a referee essentially saved Jackson Smith-Njigba's life. There almost was a massive fight that broke out, if not for a ref getting in the way and being able to protect Jackson Smith-Njigba while he was on the Houston Texans sideline. From that perspective, I think it was a very good situation for the team in general. I think the Seahawks, if you're looking at it, you're very excited. For the Texans, the AFC South outside of the Colts is wide open, but they're going to be one of those teams that just ekes their way into the playoffs right now with the way they're playing. I think they're a very good team, but CJ Stroud has not been playing at the level he has since he was a rookie. Since his rookie year, he has not played at the level that we expected from him after that rookie season. So, but now after the 2-minute extension and halftime, we're going to be making our way into quarter 4, as we are going to be taking a look at the next week. Not quarter 4, apologies. Quarter 3, the second half of this game. As I make my way over, I would also like to draw some attention to the upper right, as I did make a new logo. This is the new logo for GameClock. I had an assignment for a graphic design class, and that's where I came up with this brand new GameClock logo. So let us know how you guys like it in the live chat. But we're going to get ourselves going here in the third quarter, taking a look at this next week. Tomorrow, Chargers, Vikings. I believe this is actually in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. No, this is in LA. I misspoke. This is in LA. But Vikings going to the Chargers. I'm not exactly sure who the starter is going to be. I believe it's still going to be Carson Wentz. I don't know if any news has come out on whether J.J. McCarthy is going to be coming back. Looking at this from a sense of the defense that the Chargers have been able to play, obviously they're coming off the loss against the Colts. I still think Justin Herbert's the better quarterback, and normally I lean towards the team with the better quarterback unless you have a defense that is out of their mind. The Vikings don't have a defense that's out of their mind. That makes me say that I'm going to go towards the Chargers winning this matchup. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think that it's going to be one of those games where the Vikings, you're still going to see some Justin Jefferson production, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be a very big game for those teams. Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey have been having some really successful seasons. Have had a really successful season. Keenan Allen has come back after his tenure with the Bears and has looked like his old self. He's been playing at a very high level. And so what I want to see from these teams, Vikings, I want to see some more offensive production. If Carson Wentz is going to remain the starter, I want to see the Vikings have some success. I want to see them score touchdowns, score more points than just 20 points, 22 points in a game. They were able to put up a large amount of points against the Bengals. I want to see some production like that against a competent defense. For the Chargers, I want to see the defense step up. After giving up 38 points to the Indianapolis Colts, I want to see a bigger game from them. I want to see a game where they're able to hold a team to 10, 20 points. And for the Chargers offense, I just want to see them get going. They after the loss of Amari and Hampton, it's been a little bit off for them. I want to see them take a step up, take that jump, and get back to the high-scoring octane offense that they were able to play at a point. Dolphins, Falcons. Falcons win this game. Falcons are going to bounce back after their tough loss against the 49ers, who have been playing very well, very good coach defense. I think Bijan's going to have a bounce-back game, and the Dolphins are coming off one of their worst losses of the season. If Tua's the starter, you can't trust Tua's not going to throw the ball over. You can't trust that Tua's not going to turn the ball over, and understand that when you look at the way and the trajectory of this Dolphins team, they're on the down, and obviously the Falcons had a tough loss, but the Falcons are a good team. And I think that the Falcons are going to take that step up. They're going to be able to handle it because the Dolphins defense is nowhere at the same level as the 49ers. And so you're going to see some more offensive production. Bijan's going to take a step back up and try to put himself back in that Offensive Player of the Year conversation. And we'll see how it goes for the first of the noon games. The Bears are going to be visiting the Baltimore Ravens. This is where I really would love to know news-wise. I'm going to take a quick check. Does not say, but the biggest question right now for me is, will Lamar start? If Lamar is back from injury, I think the Ravens might have a bounce-back game, but it's going to be a slug-out there in Baltimore. The Bears have been playing good football. They've been having a pretty good offense. And if you come in with a good offense against another good offense and two mediocre defenses, it'll be a really interesting game to see. I think if Lamar's back, it's going to be a slug-out. If not, I very much lean in favor of the Bears. I think, yeah, that's my opinion. I think the Ravens are going to lose this game if Lamar's out. If Lamar's back in, I still probably think the Ravens lose because I don't know if Lamar is going to step back into that role and take off like we want him to or expect him to. Jets-Bengals. Bengals are going to win this game. Joe Flacco, if he plays at the same level he did last week, they will wipe the floor with the Jets. The Jets are going to be grounded there in Cincinnati if Joe plays the way he did last week. Joe Flacco played at a very high level. If he continues to play at that high level, the Jets are going to be grounded, and we're going to see another loss to this winless team. So I have the Bengals winning that game. Bills, after bye, are going to be coming back with a vengeance, starting off against the Panthers in Carolina. Looking at that game, I very much lean towards the Bills bouncing back after their loss from the Falcons. They got a chance to have their bye week, take a step back, refocus, and set themselves up to have this last half of the season, last quarter of this, however many games of the season, come back, fire off with a big win against a Panthers team that has struggled to stop high-octane, high-powered offenses. For the Panthers, I want to see Bryce Young, I want to see Rico Dowdle, I want to see Tedero McMillan score some points on this Bills defense. The Falcons, I would say, are probably on a similar level. They're obviously a little bit better than the Panthers offense, but I think the Panthers offense has been playing at a very high level. I think that Bryce Young has been showing what you want to see out of a starting quarterback. Tedero McMillan has shown flashes and shown that he's going to be an exceptional rookie wide receiver. And the same thing with Rico Dowdle, who came out of nowhere to be one of the better running backs in the NFL right now. I still think Buffalo's going to win this because they're coming out healthy, recuperated, rejuvenated, and ready to hunt and put down the Panthers. 49ers in Houston. There's no reason for me not to pick the 49ers here. The Texans are coming off a tough loss to the Seahawks, a division rival of the 49ers. 49ers have continued to play some of the best defense in the NFL. They are playing at a very high level, and that's all thanks to Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh was the Jets head coach and then was fired and came in as a defensive-minded defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, and since then, he's been able to step it up and get this defense playing at a level that they should not be playing at with the injuries they have. They don't have Fred Warner. They have their third or fourth string linebackers starting, and they're able to hold the Falcons to 10 points. I think this Texans team is going to really struggle to score points on this defense. I think this Niners defense has been playing better than the Seahawks, and the Seahawks were able to hold them to 19. Depending on the starter, obviously if Mac Jones is still in, Mac Jones is going to light it up. If Brock comes back, Brock's going to be able to light it up. As long as Christian McCaffrey's healthy, they'll be able to win some games. You still have Kyle Juszczyk. You still have Christian McCaffrey. And I think this is still going to be a win for the 49ers. Browns-Patriots. I think that looking at this game, looking at this matchup, Dylan Gabriel coming off of a good win, obviously. The Browns coming off a win, bounce-back win. Both teams scored 31 points in their last game. One team held the team to 6. The other team held the team to 13. Understand, I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think this looks like a game of a 10-13 kind of score. Maybe even a 6-7. Understand that the Patriots are going to come out, they're going to want to score offense, and they're going to play tough defense. They are a top 5. Both of these teams have top 5 defenses, and I think that that's going to slow down these teams. Denzel Ward is going to be able to box Stephon Diggs. We're going to see a very tight coverage from Denzel Ward. He's going to be able to shut down one of the first options for Drake May. We'll see what Drake May is able to do with that. This Browns defense has been playing at a high level. So has the Patriots offense. It'll be a very exciting game to see. And I think if I'm looking at these noon games, it's probably the one I'm most anticipating. Because this game is going to be a game of defense. And if you're someone who grew up watching Big Ten football like I did myself, you know that it can be really fun to watch a good defensive game. Obviously, the offenses in the NFL score a lot more points than the offenses in the Big Ten, but this is a closest thing you're going to get to a Big Ten matchup in the NFL. Two star-studded defenses, strong defenses that have been playing at a high level against two good offenses. Obviously, the Patriots' offense is better. That's why I will be picking the Patriots to win, but that's where I fall on that noon matchup. Giants-Eagles rematch. That this time going to be in Philly. Eagles coming off of a good win, I would say. Obviously, you wanted to see a little bit more from the offense, but coming off of a win is a win, and the Giants cannot say that. The Giants lost to the Broncos in what is one of the biggest collapses I've seen in this season. There's only one team that had a worse collapse so far this season, and we know who they are. Understand that I think that this game is going to be determined by how well Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo play. If Scat has another 3-touchdown game, hat-trick style of game, we're going to see a very close game, probably fall in favor of the Eagles still. But as that is the third quarter, put the fours up as we go into the fourth quarter and continue our conversation. The Giants are coming off of a tough loss, as I mentioned. Cam Skattebo has been playing at a decent level, but he was not playing as well as he could have against the Broncos. He got laid out by a linebacker of the Broncos in pass rush, which resulted in an interception by Jackson Dart. If I'm the Eagles, I'm coming into this matchup saying, y'all stole our chain, I ain't having it. They're going to come out in their home turf and stomp this Eagles team. Giants team. The Giants are a fun team, as I've mentioned. They're a fun team to watch. But when you play a competent contender, I don't think you're going to win this game. The Eagles are going to come out. They're going to be like, you guys beat us handedly last time. How about we return the favor? I think this is going to be a returning of favor. The Eagles are going to come out. They're going to actually have a competitive offense this week, and they're going to be able to shut down the Dart Skattebo backfield. That's my prediction. I think the Eagles win this game. I lean towards the home field advantage especially. Buccaneers Saints. The Buccaneers win this game. The Buccaneers obviously didn't play well, but they were playing against one of the top 5 teams in the NFL, in the Lions. Looking at it from a matchup perspective, if Baker Mayfield plays at the level he did last week, this is going to be a tough game for the Buccaneers to win. But if he bounces back, comes back and plays like the Baker Mayfield we saw in the previous 6 weeks of the season, then we're going to see a Buccaneers victory in New Orleans. For the Saints, what are you looking for to win this game, to eke this game out? Turnovers and Spencer Rattler having one of the best games of his career. Targeting Rashid Shaheed, targeting Chris Olave, seeing a bounce-back game from Kamara. Those are what you want to see if you want to win for the Saints. I don't think any of those things happen from the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side, I could see this being a slug out. I could. But it's not going to, because the Buccaneers are going to lock back in and take this win against the Saints, their divisional rival. The Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL outside of the New York Jets. The Jets, Jets are on the ground and have not taken off at all this season. The Saints are the only team that's close, and they're just not going to be able to catch up or keep up with the rest of the NFL. Titans Colts. I feel bad for the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward, because this Colts team has been the best team in the NFL, bar none. There is no team that I look at that I'm like, yes, they are playing at a higher level than the Indianapolis Colts right now. The Colts are the best team in the NFL. The Titans are not. Cam Ward is going to get slaughtered in this matchup against the Colts in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. We're going to see a very bad game by the Titans. It's going to be one of those games where you're like, oh, they scored a touchdown. Oh, they scored a touchdown. Oh, they scored a touchdown on the Colts side. If I'm the Colts, I look at this game, licking my lips, being like, let's stat pad. If I'm Jonathan Taylor, this is where he cements his chances at the Offensive Player of the Year. This is where he gets another hat trick. This is where he puts up 170, 200 rushing yards against a very, very lackluster defense from the Titans. Daniel Jones, play at a good level. That's all he needs to do to win this game. The Titans are going to lose, and they're going to continue their losing streak after their one win against the Arizona Cardinals. Give me one moment as I take a quick sip of water. Not sponsored by Body Armor. Not at all. Would love to be sponsored by someone, but that probably will not happen very soon. Cowboys-Broncos is the one of the other 3 o'clock games. This game makes me debate. I think that this is, once again, going to be a slugout. Anytime that you have a decent offense against this Cowboys team, you're going to see a slugout. This Cowboys offense is a top 5 offense, if not top 3 right now. They have put up 40 points, 44 points, 30 points. They are a very, very competent NFL offense. Their defense, on the other hand, has not been playing at that level. They need some form of rush. Their guys are getting slugged. Their run defense has been terrible, and there's a reason that they ringed the Las Vegas Raiders. There's a reason they called them up and said, hey, what do you want for Max Crosby? There's a reason they're shopping around the league looking for edge rushers, because they know the impact an edge rusher has, because they traded away one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, and they're feeling it. The fact that the Cowboys have been this successful this season, and yes, I'm aware I'm saying this successful when they have a 3-3-1 record, even still, this team could be, if you had Micah Parsons, a 4-2 or a 5-1 team. But you traded away Micah Parsons, and that's going to be a stain on this season if you don't make the playoffs for the Cowboys. This offense has been so good, and you look at it and you're like, how have you lost this many games? It's because their defense has been so abysmal, and they lack the presence of a good edge rusher. This Cowboys team would have been a playoff team if not for their trade of Micah Parsons. And so I look at this and I say, Cowboys are going to win this game probably, even though they're going in to one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, in the Broncos, who, mind you, gave up 32 points last week to a less star-studded New York Giants team. Cowboys are going to put up 30, maybe 40 points in this matchup. The Broncos will also be putting up 30 or 40 points in this matchup. But I think it's a coin flip for who's going to win. But I think the coin is going to land on the star, and the Cowboys are going to take this one home. Packers-Steelers, Rodgers return to, not Lambeau, sadly. This one is in Pittsburgh. This is at Heinz Field. And I have a sneaking suspicion that this game's going to fall in favor of the Packers. I think Micah Parsons is either going to get double-teamed again, because I think every team took notes and said, well, the Cardinals tried to do it one-on-one, and it didn't work. So we're going to double-team Micah Parsons. That's what's going to happen. And so Micah's going to get doubled, and his presence is going to be felt. The question is, can the rest of the Packers defense step up and defend this Aaron Rodgers-led offense? This offense has been playing at a relatively high level. Obviously, when they've played top defensive, they've struggled. We saw that when they played the Browns, they only put up 23 points. Obviously, only is a big deal. They still won that game, but that was because of the lackluster offense from the Browns. If I'm the Packers, you have a better offense than the Steelers. If I'm looking at this, I'm like, I think the Packers offense probably can play at a better level than the Steelers defense against these competing defenses. I think the tail of the tape is going to fall on the quarterbacks, and it's going to fall on the edge rushers. It's going to fall on, can TJ Watt have a good game, or can Micah Parsons have a good game? Does Jordan Love have a good game, or does Rodgers have a good game? Whoever outperforms the other is going to win. That's football for you. I'm pulling a Will Buxton if you watch Formula One or Drive to Survive. I'm explaining things very basically. But understand, The Packers are going to win this game. I just see Parsons or any of the other defensive linemen from the Packers being able to get in the backfield and make Rodgers have to roll out, which I don't think is going to work well for him right now. Commanders-Chiefs. Chiefs win this game. The Commanders announced today that Jaden Daniels is going to be out once again in Week 8. It's sad to say that one of the most marquee rookies last year, a very successful rookie, has really just been riddled with injuries this year, and the Commanders are suffering because of it. Marcus Mariota is a competent backup. He's a good backup, but I think he's playing against a Chiefs team that has gotten hot as of recently. It's not going to be as much of a blowout as it was against the Raiders. The Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL. But the Chiefs are going to handle their business. They're in Arrowhead. They're going to be there. The temperature is starting to drop here up north, and we're going to see a Commanders loss. Obviously not a high-scoring game because this Commanders defense is still competent, but Chiefs are going to defend their home territory against the Commanders and Marcus Mariota, and that's it for Week 8 of the NFL. As the clock runs down, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching GameClock tonight on this beautiful Wednesday. I hope to see you again next week on your new favorite sports show. Once again, this was GameClock. I'm your host, Michael Pales. Thank you for watching. Good evening,